We want you guys to feel like you're well informed and that you're prepared moving forward because we don't want there to be any surprises. We're not out to sabotage you. We want to make sure and ensure that you're successful. But we also realize, especially at the AD level, that some of you were just here this summer. Some of you were here, have been gone for a while, and now you're coming back. And then we have a number of you that have never been with the Dakota Nursing Program before. And so everything is entirely new to you. So with that being said, a lot of what you're hearing this week for a lot of you might just be repetitive and yeah, I got it already. But you have to be sensitive to the fact that we do have these other students that, just don't know, so we need to kind of get them, up to speed as well. And quite honestly, as important as some of these topics are, it probably isn't a bad idea to be reminding, everybody of some of these details. So I just want to preface that before we start moving forward here. Why does it keep doing this? Okay, so when you guys look at this picture, what are some of the things that stand out to you? So when you think about all of you here together in lab, or if you think of all of you together learning a skill, what are some of the things you see in this picture that are the same as what you're going to experience and see? The mannequin. It's a mannequin, but check this out. I don't know what this is holding his limbs together. I don't know if it's string or wire or what, but at least we have an intact, limb. So yes, mannequins. They used them then, we're using them now. What else? What's the same? Yep. You have an intent audience, a polite, interested audience. So whether it's us demoing a skill for you, practicing with your peers and having them watch you, make sure you pay attention. Give them the respect that you are wanting for yourself if you're in that position. Honestly, I can't really tell if she's the instructor or maybe if she's the instructor, but it does look like they have stripes and she doesn't. So you're probably right. She probably is the teacher. Okay, good. So there are some similarities even back then. What are some things that you see different? Tall women. Tall women. All women. You look kind of tall. She looks tall. Yes, all women, right? Nursing for the longest time was a woman's profession. But nowadays, about 6 to 7% of nurses are males. So you're still kind of outnumbered. But the numbers are increasing every year. I was telling the two guys this morning, if you're interested, there is an American Association for Men in Nursing. And I looked around on their website and it looks actually very robust and it looks like a fairly large organization for guys that are nurses. So moving forward, if you guys are interested in that, they are available and they have resources for you, place to network, connect, and things like that. What else do you see about this picture that is still the same these days? The same. What about the lady's hair? It's up, it's contained. They have some pin curls in them, I guess you could say, but they're well kept, and so those things are the same as well. So I think we got everything covered. Fortunately, the uniforms are different, so that's good. No more hats. All right. But let's talk about dimensional analysis. And for a lot of people, when you think of math in general or dimensional analysis, this is kind of the thing that comes to mind and what you think of. Some of us inherently are very good at math, and dimensional analysis has come easily. For some of us, it's been a struggle. It probably always will be a struggle. But when we move forward in 227 and even in 237 in the spring, you're going to still have to continue to use dimensional analysis. And what we ask you to calculate is going to be exponentially more difficult. But the reason we teach dimensional analysis is because as long as you go through the same 5 steps, no matter what you're trying to figure out, you're always going to get the right answer. So that's what makes dimensional analysis so important for us, is because it has significantly lower our rates of medication errors. And it really is, as long as you do it from start to finish, it really is, kind of a foolproof way of figuring out what you're trying to figure out. Now, Carrie in the 227 course has done a number of integrity recordings. I was, but now I've decided not to have you guys watch it here in lab today. But I want to put that out there because if you are struggling with dimensional analysis, she has some really good integrities out there that kind of walk you through step by step. She also has recordings that she has done or will do for each week upcoming. So, when we start getting into IVs and drip rates and things like that, titrations, if you want to, take a look at her recordings before you come to lab, I think that would significantly help your math quiz for that week, for example. But that's up to you. They are out there and available. But what I want to do is just work through some very, very, what I would consider basic problems. And so here's your first set. There's 4 of them here. And I don't want you to just do these in your head. I want you to figure them out with dimensional analysis. I'm going to give you maybe a couple minutes and then we're going to go through them together. It's nothing you have to turn in, just find a area of paper you can write on. Now these are going to involve conversions that you all should know. You should know milliliters to liters, micrograms to milligrams, grams to milligrams, grams to kilograms. Those are all, like I mentioned, conversions that you should know. And if you don't know them, you'll want to make sure you know them. All right, let's start working on these together. What are we looking for here? What are we trying to figure out with the first one? Number of micrograms, okay? So always start with that. Equals, what's going to go on the top here? Okay, 1,000 micrograms over 1 milligram. Now this is that conversion that you guys all need to know. Okay, times, and what do we have left? Goes up here. Right, 0.75 milligrams. Now, you cross these out here, and what you're left with, conveniently, is what you're looking for. So what's your answer? you get 750 micrograms. Is that what everybody got? Okay. I mean, pretty simple in the whole scheme of things. And that's how all the rest of these look and feel. You're just using obviously different conversions from liters to milliliters, grams to milligrams, and kilograms to grams. Wendy, what'd you get for the second one? Right, the second one is 2015. Okay. Nick, what'd you get for the third one? 4,300. Good job. And Dennis, how about the fourth one? 760 grams. Good job. Okay. Let's take it a little step further here and figure out these. Now, in case you're a little fuzzy on these measurements, right, Haley? Right, Carrie? Carrie doesn't cook in the kitchen. But how many teaspoons are in a tablespoon, for example? 3 teaspoons in a tablespoon. How many mils are in a teaspoon? 5. So how many mils would be in a tablespoon? Okay, so there's that one. How many pounds are in a kilogram? Right. 2.2 pounds is equal to 1 kilogram. That's a popular one. How many centimeters to inches? 2.54 if you want to get specific. And then we did micrograms and milligrams. So figure out these as well, please. Now the setup for these is exactly the same as the previous ones that you worked on. It's just that second step conversion is going to be obviously different. Brandy, what'd you get for the first one? Okay, good. And what'd you guys get for the second one? 15 kilograms. Okay. Next one? You guys there yet? 5 centimeters. Okay. The next one, how many inches? 54.3. Okay, sounds good to me. See, I started mine off with 2.5 instead of 2.54, so my end result was a little bit different. Okay, and the last one? How many milligrams, the last one? What'd you get? Let's do that one together. I could be wrong. It's happened before. We're looking for milligrams. What's our conversion here? We want 1 milligram per how many micrograms? Right. Okay. And then times 12 micrograms. And what did you guys get? 0.012. Right? Okay, good job. If you need to do some refreshing with these conversions in your Hornfed textbook, we're looking at pages 70, 72, and 73. All right, let's take it a step further. And just for my own curiosity, for those of you that did the NCLEX, did you have any calculation problems? No? You had one? Was it kind of like what we do in school here? Or what was it like? Okay, like number of pills kind of thing? Mills, pills. Okay. Yeah. I would, now that I'm thinking about it, I would take it out as far out as you can. So 2.54 is going to get you a more specific end result. But if you decide to use 2.5 and how you work the problem gets you the correct answer, I would just email Carrie and say, this is how I calculated it. I know, and that's why I use 2.5, but it technically is 2.54 depending on how far out you take it. We're reasonable like that. I mean, if that's how you calculated it and you looked it up in Hornfed and that's what it said, just, let Carrie know and she'll rectify it for you. Not a big deal. All right. Do you guys remember, for those of you that had a calculation with mills, did it give you the decimal point to round it to? Do you remember? Yeah. Like 10th, 100th? Yeah. So if they asked for an answer to the 10th, were you allowed to put it into the 100th? Or vice versa? Do you know or remember? Maybe it's a big fog. Huh? No number? I'm just curious, and I'm going to Chicago next month again to write items. I'm going to ask them how that works. If it allows you to put in like 2 decimal places. Yeah, that's what I'm worried about. Really? Okay. So if they wanted this answer to the 100th, and you put in this, and technically you get it wrong. So anyway, I was going to ask them about that because I'm not sure. Yeah, but still. You know what I mean? If you just don't read that part or forget that part. Anyway, okay, let's do this one. This is a more practical problem. So the aim of this question obviously is to see if you guys can pull out the necessary components of the stem. So is this every 4 hours relevant for anything? No, but there is some problems where it is. And so make sure that you're able to pull out the necessary pieces and ignore the others. Okay, so work on this one for a little bit. Who's got this one? 6.9 is the answer. Okay, so what are we looking for here? Milliliters per milliliters per dose. Okay, now this is going to be important here when we start doing different kinds of problems. If we ask you how many milligrams in a day, how many milligrams per dose, how many milligrams per injection. So get in the habit of writing this as a two-part, what are you trying to figure out? Because that's going to make a difference in your final outcome. Okay, so equals 5 mils per 60 milligrams times 220 milligrams per dose, right? That's also a double check for you that you're concluding your dimensional analysis. You've got what you're looking for here, and that's what's left. So what did you initially get on your calculator? 6.875, but I wanted it to the nearest 10th, so you get 6.9. Would it be okay if I wrote my answer like this? No, you don't want trailing zeros. Why? Right, someone might think you wrote 690. Okay, so don't make that mistake. Okay, no trailing zeros. No, no, no. They're not our friends. Okay, here's another one for you. This is kind of a wordy stem. Try and kind of weed past all the narrative, get past all the verbiage, and pick out what you're going to need for your answer. Carrie, what'd you get for this one? 0.93. Okay, let's go through this one. What are we looking for? Milliliters per dose equals 7.4 mils over, okay, times 1 gram, right? Okay, times, okay, per dose, right? Are we done? Are we done? Cross out, cross out, cross out, cross out. We got mils per dose. Yes. What did you get for your first initial answer? We got 0.925, but I wanted it to the nearest hundredth, so you round it up to 0.93. Whenever you have a 5 here or above, you round up. If it's 1, 2, 3, or 4, you round down. So, would it be okay if I wrote my answer like this? No, you need a leading zero if your answer is less than 1, because someone might come along and think it's 93. Could it go like this, 0.930? No, because you have a trailing zero, and they could think it was 930. Okay, so just remember those kinds of little minute details, and you'll be good to go. Let me ask you this. What if I said, how many milligrams of ampicillin is this patient going to get in a day? Would you need this for that? Yeah. If I asked that, you would need this number, right? But I didn't, so you don't. So, those are the kinds of things that you're going to have to muddle through when you're figuring out these questions. Okay, so let's talk about some other things pertaining to math. And what we're going to reference here is your Dakota Nursing Program handbook. And if you are interested in reading the handbook, you can always find the most current version of it on our Dakota Nursing Program website, and the handbook is right here. Okay, so you can open this up. It's just a basic PDF file, and you can, look at what you need to look at. This is the math guideline portion of the handbook, and it goes through, all the details about leading zeros and trailing zeros and wind around and all that. And I'll let you read through that if you need to refresh your memory. But this is where the math remediation portion is. And we changed this a little bit for this year. You need to get everything right, otherwise you have to remediate. So all of your quizzes you need to get 100%, otherwise you need to remediate. Carrie has the course all set up for remediation. There's a deadline to get the remediation done. If you get 100%, then you're good. If you get one wrong, you got to go in and do the remediation piece and meet the deadline because she's watching. And if she sees that you haven't done it, she'll email you and email us to let us know you haven't done it. So make sure you keep up on that stuff and don't forget about it. So those are the quizzes. If you get less than 60% or 60% below on a quiz, you need to meet with me, Anna, Annie, Jesse, Deb, somebody, so that we can figure out what's going on with your dimensional analysis. It could be something very simple, like the way you're setting up your conversions. It could be that you're rounding too soon. It could be that you're not rounding at all, so it can be a simple fix, but you need to come meet with us and then retake that quiz until you get 100%. Now, the math exams are a little different. There's 4 of them this semester. 2 of them are like calculating type exams. The other 2 are like theory, concept kinds of exams. Those you need to get at least 76% on those math exams. And if you don't, retake them until you achieve that threshold. Any questions about remediation? We feel like as a consortium, it's that important. Like if you don't get it right, it would be a error, in practice. So we want to start, getting that importance ingrained in you guys.
Are we learning new math, or are we just kind of
That is a very good question. I mean, it depends on how you look at it. We're going to be talking about IVs. And so you're going to need to calculate drip rates, flow rates. So you're going to be looking at drops per minute. You're going to be looking at mils per hour. We're going to be having you do calculations based on body surface area. And so that requires, I think, like some root, like the square root of things and stuff like that I've long forgotten. But we go through that during the specific lab weeks. And so the videos that Carrie does will introduce you to those new calculations that we're going to be introducing. Does that make sense? But like I said, as long as you follow through on your dimensional analysis, it doesn't really matter what you're trying to figure out, because you always go back to that same process and make sure all your conversions cancel out. Mm-hmm. Yep. No. Right. Yep. There's nothing in Blackboard that'll like, you need to remediate. I mean, you need to take it upon yourself, say, yeah, I got one wrong. Yeah, I got all of them wrong. I need to go remediate. And yeah, and know that Carrie is kind of watching you on the back end. Wait, let's look. Let's just look. So here is quiz and exam remediation here. So here's the remediation here. And I don't know, are these password protected? Are they? Okay. Yeah, she might have covered this. Well, obviously she covered this on Monday, but yeah, everything's right here for you. Okay. All right, so we talked about the quizzes, we talked about the exams. Let's talk about some basics here. The door code to get into the lab is 135, all separate. Lab hours are the same hours as they are, it's just pretty much when that front door is open and closed. And I can't remember what they have it programmed to, but it's the hours that faculty are here, like 7:30 to 5. I think that front door lets you swipe in and out. We don't want you roaming around here in the middle of the night practicing, so you're going to have to keep it, within reasonable confines of the day. Food is fine in here, obviously. We just ask that you, pick up after yourselves when you're done eating. So if you have a, condensation spot on the table, wipe it up. If you had a big juicy cheeseburger and it left grease stains on the table, wipe them up because someone's going to come along and put their stuff on it and then they have a grease stain on it. If you eat a bunch of crackers and granola bars and you have crumbs all over the place, wipe them up. I mean, it's nothing that we should have to tell you guys to do, but believe me, this place gets to be a tornado every once in a while when students don't clean up after themselves. Same thing with supplies. Like for the IV lab that's coming up, I'll give you a kit with all your supplies in it. Just clean up after yourselves, pick up your wrappers, throw your extra needles in the sharps container. Just, pick up the place so that someone coming in after you can focus on what they need to do and not worry about cleaning up and tidying up everything. Okay, pretty common sense stuff. For scrubs, you don't have to wear your scrubs on the days that we're teaching you the skill. You can just wear whatever. But when you're doing your video redemonstrations for us, you do need to dress the part. So some kind of scrub. I mean, it doesn't have to be our scrubs, but some kind of professional scrubs. Ladies, put your hair up if that's indicated. You need to pretend like you're at an actual bedside taking care of an actual client. Okay, that's what those videos need to portray to us, is that piece. Attendance is also in the handbook, and attendance for labs is as important as clinicals or theory or anything else. And I'm trying to, the attendance policy is on page 18. Basically, you need to make up the hour per hour that you miss of lab. Tardies, we need you to be on time, be in your seats, be ready to go. And if you're leaving early or coming in late, sometimes depending on how long or how late or how early you leave, it may count as an absence. So that is right here for you in the handbook. If you're going to be missing lab or clinical, you need to let Annie know, and then also the faculty that's either teaching the lab that day or with you in clinical that day. And you can email us and we'll get your email on our phones. You don't need to call us, just let us know sooner than later so that we can plan for that. Any questions about anything so far? No? Okay. Sorry, I'm kind of bouncing back and forth here. Children, I know a number of you have small children. We ask that you don't bring them to the lab. It's just too easy for them to get into something they don't belong. We don't want them to get hurt. It's a liability if they were to get hurt here or break something. So it's just best not to bring little ones here for those reasons, obviously. The schedule, I gave you the schedule. It has all the weeks outlined for you and kind of what to expect on those weeks. And the bottom line here is practice, practice, practice. That's the truth with anything in life. Especially if it's something you've never done before, you need to practice it to get proficient with it. So by the time you go into that recording room to record your skill, you should feel really comfortable with what you're doing so that it can be a seamless, nice, succinct video. If you go in there thinking that you're just going to wing it, that's not going to work. Okay, especially with these high stakes skills that you're learning this semester, you can't mess around with a central line. You got to know what you're doing. You can't mess around with an IV start. You can't mess around with blood transfusion. So you need to really make sure you've got it before you go in there and start that process of recording. Okay, and then in practice is what's going to get you there. Time, practice, and effort on your part. The lab evaluation for these skills is the same as it always has been. We require you to get at least a 7.6 to pass the skill. If you don't, then you need to repeat the skill, and instead of recording it, we're going to have you do it face to face in front of us. So it's not the end of the world, but you know, if that's what it comes down to, you'll need to do that one face to face, and we'll talk more about that here in a second. I also gave you video guidelines, integrity tips. So all of your skills are going to be recorded this semester. We're not going to do any face-to-face demos like we did. So everything is going to be recorded. If you have to re-demo, then that one is face-to-face. So there's some tip sheets there, some guidelines for your video recording. You want to make sure that you read those over and know what's expected of you, so that you're not blindsided and struggling at the last minute. Make sure that in your video, obviously, that we can see the intricacies of whatever skill you're doing. So if you're starting an IV, you might need to have someone in there with you that can zoom in on the vein as you're inserting, you know, so we can ensure that sterile technique and so on and so forth. So you know, you'll have to kind of play around with that and make sure that the visuals for us are good enough so that we can clearly evaluate your competence. If we're watching your video and you have your back to me and I can't see what you're doing, then you're going to have to do it in front of me. You know what I mean? So make sure that you watch your video after you've recorded it and make sure that you can see everything clearly, because we're going to need to see everything to establish that competency. Okay. All right. There are 5 skills that you're going to be recording this fall. We're going to do IV starts and maintenance, IV piggyback and maintenance fluids, IV push meds, central line cares, not inserting central lines, but caring for them, and then blood. So those are the big 5. And like I mentioned, when you're doing your recordings, you need to dress the part. And be professional about it and pretend it's as close to the real deal as possible. Okay, that's going to be part of establishing your competency in that skill. All right. So, what if? Well, you need to do the face-to-face redemonstration for us within 7 days. The reason for that is that we have to keep everything set up until everyone has performed their skill competently. So we don't want to keep everything out, you know, for long periods of time waiting for students to do that redemo. Also, you know, you need to check off on your skill before you can do it in clinicals. So, you know, the sooner you get these done, the sooner you can actually start an IV on someone in clinicals, and the sooner you can change a central line dressing. So we want to get it done sooner than later. We have done a few different things with our forms this year. And so if you look on page 30 in the handbook, it talks about skill practice and skill checkoffs. We need you to be proficient with your skills. We need you to be safe, and we need to establish that you're going to be able to do that skill on a real person correctly and safely. Okay, so if we have students that are really struggling in this area, we're gonna work with you, you know, to get things right. You know, we want to make sure that you're successful. But there's also that possibility that, you know, maybe things go terribly wrong, and we need to have a policy that helps us deal with that. And so if you do fail 5 nursing skills, that is where the grounds kind of start for dismissal from the program. Now, you guys only have 5 skills this semester, so you'd have to, you know, really struggle with all of them essentially, and I get that. But this is the procedure that we'll go through. And we have what's called a conference form that we'll start with. And then we have a unsafe occurrence report. We have number one, and then number 2. And so there's a kind of a due process that we'll go through if you're struggling. And we're gonna help you. It's not like we're just gonna, okay, you're done, bye. We'll help you get through some of those struggles if you're having them. Okay. All right. Resources for 227. None of these should be surprising to you. Skyscape obviously is going to be a good resource on clinicals. You can look up your drugs. You can look up all kinds of things in there. Your charity textbook is this one. So you'll want to make sure you bring this book on week 6 and 14. You don't need to bring it every week, just those particular weeks. So this is the book that you'll need. And if you don't have it, you'll have to go get it because that's part of the lab that day. So make sure you bring it with. In ATI, if you haven't already, there's 2 different versions of ATI depending on what level of the program you're in. So make sure you change your profile or whatever it is to RN. And then I believe Annie does some stuff on the back end to make sure you get all the modules and stuff that you need. But that's something that you can do certainly at this point if you haven't already. ATI remediation is the same as it always has been. So you get the different levels after you take your proctored exam. And that remediation process has not changed. However, the requirements that we expect of you before you take the proctored exam have changed. So you should have a handout that looks like this. And this is kind of the procedure, or it is the procedure you need to go through. Okay, so you'll take practice test B. If you get less than 90%, you need to create a focus review. Go through the active learning templates, complete them by hand, not typed, and then achieve 90% or greater on Form B before you come take your proctored exam. Can you get one? You can. So you need to bring all those things with you when you do come take the proctored exam because we won't know that you've done it if you don't bring it with you to show us. So usually on a day where you have a proctored exam, we will collect all those things from you while you're in theory and look through them so that when it's time to take your exam, we just have to get you in there and get you set up. Go. Yeah. Yep. Well, no, because if you get less than 90%, you'll have to take it again. It just has to be 12 hours between attempts. Yeah, don't wait. Don't wait till the last minute. Yeah, so it's, another good example that Annie, was speaking to earlier. Don't wait until the final hour. Right. Right. Correct. Right. Yeah. And we're trying to, this is, every site in the consortium has a different way on how they deal with these exams in ATI. So this is something new for us, but we're trying to get you guys ready on the front end of these proctored exams rather than having you, get a level where you have to remediate and they're trying to pick up where you left off. Yeah.
Yeah. And like I know a lot of people think like some of them, Well, I just don't know how to print them out. Like a lot of people will have
Like blank ones?
Yeah. Or which ones they had to do. I know a lot of people ask you questions.
Because I think, doesn't it tell you which ones you need to do based on your low scoring areas?
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes you'll use the same learning template for multiple. It tells you which one. Like,
It'll like so tell you.
yeah.
Yep, it'll tell you your low scoring areas. It'll tell you the templates you have to do for each one of your low scoring areas. So,
It's not one. I only did do it once last time.
yeah.
It was awful.
Do you have a question?
Oh, I was just gonna ask why this got changed because the practices are way different than this. I don't think I've ever got more than 90 on the
That's right.
practice.
I was
And
gonna
I
say,
would
that's
never
above
fail.
80.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would do my learning.
No, I did too. I never had remedial last year.
And I never got it 90, so I think this is
Really high.
Well, we'll see.
Failed the firm.
Yeah.
And
then on top of having to write, I don't know.
I just know every single one of us is gonna have to do this focus review every single time.
Probably.
But my using the book, I don't know.
For my review last year, I looked through the book. It took me like 3 hours to do that full test. And the numbers in the book weren't the same. Like they weren't the year before.
That's,
then
and
the
I,
year
yeah, I was saying that during the
API.
pharmacology one, I was like, these aren't even, like, there aren't even these pages in these books. It will tell you to which pages to refer to, and they're not even in those books. I showed you that last year for pharmacology. It was saying like, turn to page 702, and there was no page 702 in the book.
So ATI was telling you to do that?
Yeah. So for the,
I know. I know they changed their edition, and you gotta make sure you're using the right book.
well, yeah, but I mean, when you get the books from them that semester, so they should have been the right books if they're gonna review. You know what I mean? Like, they should
Yeah.
use the right books.
I was just trying to say, my point is the practice exams are way different, because I never got an 90 on those, and I got a level 2 or 3 on every single ATI. So it's pretty much impossible to get a 90 on the practice, even looking everything up in the ATI book.
But you're going to have to do some studying up front. Make sure you're prepared before you take the practice exam. And then
On the midterm.
see what your focus review looks like.
I'm
And
just
then-
saying, I feel like it's a lot.
Any other questions about this? We're going to move on here. All right. I did put in some time here for a break. If you guys feel like you need a break, or do you want to just keep going? Okay. Alrighty. So let's talk about APA here a little bit. Yoda says, cite, you must. APA format. Based on what you know about APA format, why do you think that we may get such a big deal? Consistency? Yeah? Yeah? What else? What's a piece of APA format other than the formatting? Citations, giving credit where credit is due. Okay, a standardized way of giving credit to your resources. Okay. I realize that not all of you are going on for your BSN, but if you do go on for your BSN or your MSN or your doctorate, their whole program revolves around APA. So we need to, we realize that not everyone's going down that road, but we need to get you ready if you are. And so if you do talk to students that have or are going on, they'll tell you that APA format is huge. And so we're just trying to give you the tools that you need moving forward should you choose to do that. Now for APA for you guys this semester and in the spring, it's going to be an expectation on your specialty paperwork. And we're going to talk more about this tomorrow during clinical orientation, but all of your specialty papers will be run through SafeAssign. And I want to just show you something here. Okay. So when you run a paper through SafeAssign, you don't get the report right away. So there's a little bit of a kind of a lag time there depending on how busy they are and how many papers are getting submitted. So it's not like you get an instantaneous report. But eventually you will get a report, and this is what it looks like, or some variation of this. Now this is one of my doctoral papers I just did last week. So I wanted to show you guys what this report looks like and how to read it, because I think we have a lot of students that get their report, they see this magic number and they're like, oh good, or oh god, and so I just want to let you know what to look for before you actually do the final submission. if that's the case. So obviously this is a very important number here, but it doesn't tell you everything. And so when we look at your papers, we'll look at that number, but then we'll also recognize that sometimes what appears to me at least as a high number is really not all that high after all. And so you'll first look at this percentage, and this is the percentage of your paper that Safe Assign deems as not necessarily plagiarized, but not even necessarily red flag, but just that it's not your own thoughts. Okay, so when you look at that percentage, that's where you start. It's basically going to go through the start to the end of your paper, and you'll see that right off the bat, my first few words of my paper have a 66% match. This one has a 76% match. This is my title page. Okay, so all the students that had this are in this course wrote the same paper, and so a lot of us had the same title. So that's what that's telling you. Okay, a lot of students had time management as their running head. Okay, that's fine. That's not, I didn't do anything wrong. It's just the way it is. So then you keep going down. Now this is the body of my paper here, and you come to this one. This is a 94% match. Do you guys have any thoughts on why that is? Yeah, another student used the same quote. You know, and so their citation isn't exactly like mine because I have quotation marks in mine, but they use the same source and the same quote. So it's a 94% match. If I were grading this paper, I would say, okay, yeah, Melanie used a direct quote and she correctly cited it. Okay, so I have my citation here and I have my page number or paragraph number. We're good. This is the body of my paper and it looks pretty good. Good, 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 good. And then this. What do you guys see with this? That's my reference page. Now, one of the references that we were required to use for this paper is a book. And so obviously that one's going to show up because every student in this class had to use that same reference. And a number of these journal articles other students must have found as well. Okay, this is not a big deal because I correctly cited all my references and they just happen to be the same as other students. So really, if you go back up to this 35%, that's really not bad, you know. And so just kind of look through your paper and look through your report and see where you're at before you submit it to us. Okay. The other thing that we have found with our specialty paperwork for some students is that somewhere along the line they decide that they're going to recycle their specialty paper. So they're going to write like a template specialty paper and just change up the area, change up some of the words, keep the same goals, keep the same reflection, and then just resubmit that paper every time they go to a site. Don't do that because it's going to show up on here for one. And for two, your specialty papers need to be original pieces of work for that site that you were at. Okay, so don't do that. Because we're going to pick up on it and it's just not the right thing to do. So make sure that each clinical experience is a unique experience with a unique, original, blank slate submission. Okay? Any questions about Safe Assign or anything this way? Yeah?
When we upload
When you upload your paper, it'll automatically submit through Safe Assign for you. It's kind of built in to the assignment. Yeah.
How many times can you run it through?
Well, I don't know how Carrie has it set up. I don't know if she has it as 2 attempts or what. She might have it just set up as one, and it's a one-time, one and done kind of thing. So, but if you're citing your sources and your specialty paper is original, it really shouldn't be an issue, you know. But if it is, just come and talk to us, and then we can, you know, erase that attempt and have you resubmit if you're like, oh, wow, I forgot that, you know, or whatever, just let us know. Okay. All right. We also have some APA expectations on your clinical guides. So in your acute care settings, there's a lab section this year as well, where you'll need to write down the labs and kind of the expectations and the ramifications and the implications of them. So that would probably be a place where you're going to need an in-text citation, unless you can come up with all those details off the top of your head. So that is going to be a place where you're going to need that. And then also there's a question on your paperwork that asks about developmental stage. So, what developmental stage is your client in? Erickson stages are probably the most popular ones used, or Piaget. You're going to have to cite that source that you got that from. So those are the two big ones that you're going to need to have on your acute care paperwork. But we'll talk more about that tomorrow. APA format, because it's such a big deal, we want it to be a priority for you guys, and we want you to start learning how to write scholarly. And so we were trying to think of a way to drive home the importance of APA without making it such a huge punitive thing, which is what it was last year. And we had a lot of kind of hard feelings between faculty and students with APA format last year. So we decided to change it up a little bit and modify it. And so if you do have, a couple errors, that's okay. I mean, we get it. You're learning. 3 to 4 errors, fair. 5 or more errors, you're going to need to come and meet with that faculty that graded that paperwork and figure out what you did wrong. Maybe look at some other tools to use, whatever the case might be. After that, if you have 5 or more errors on your paperwork, you're going to start having a deduction in your final grade each time. If that still doesn't turn things around for you, then we'll probably have to get Annie involved and do some other process improvement things, but it's that important. Okay, but we don't want to make it impossible for you either. So just reach out to us if you need it. So what is plagiarism? Plagiarism is using someone else's ideas and taking them and using them as your own, or taking them and not giving that resource or that source of information credit. It seems like, a reasonable thing to avoid doing, but you'd be surprised at how many students knowingly and unknowingly use someone else's information as their own. To avoid plagiarism, just make sure that you cite your sources appropriately. Avoid using direct quotes unless you absolutely need to, and paraphrase whenever you can. Paraphrasing is not just changing a couple words in the sentence and taking it on as your own thought. Paraphrasing is turning it completely inside out, making it your own thought process, and then giving citation or giving a reference citation to that original source. Okay, so that's what we're looking for here. I told the students this morning about my experiences when I first went into college. I went to Colorado State University, and I was taking a psychology class and not particularly invested, I guess, in my education at the time, and had other priorities, and school wasn't one of them, obviously. I was lazy, and I wouldn't say that I was ignorant to APA format, but I certainly didn't realize, or maybe I probably did realize that taking someone else's work as my own was wrong, but I did it anyway. And so we had to write this paper, and at that time, we didn't have electronic resources. I mean, we had to go to the library, get the journal, thumb through it, get the books, thumb through them. And I put this paper together, and I can't even remember what it was about, but I literally took every word in that paper from someone else's work. And at the time, I think, one, that I didn't think the professor would know, and two, part of me didn't really know any better. You know what I mean? Like I cited the sources, but I certainly didn't have a whole paper of direct quotes either. And so anyway, I was kind of proud of myself and feeling relieved that I turned the paper in. But I remember I got home one day, and back in those days, we had the landline phones with the answering machines next to them, and the red light would, flash that you got a message, like back in those days. And I remember pushing the play button on the machine, and I hear this, "Hello, this message is for Melanie Collins. This is your professor, blah, 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 from Psychology 5000. I need you to stop by my office at your earliest convenience about your paper. And I'm like, oops, shoot. And I knew right away that I knew right away what I had done, that he'd figured out that I plagiarized the whole paper. So I went to his office and he had a little come to Jesus talk with me, and he did let me redo the paper for 50% of what it was originally worth. And I did make a wrong thing right. But my point is that you know, sometimes you just don't know any better, and sometimes you do know better and you do it anyway. And so, you know, again, just remember that when you're putting your scholarly writings together. So what are the resources that we recommend for you? We're not just going to throw you out there and say, okay, good luck with APA, wish you the best. There are some things that I think might be helpful to you. One of which is the actual APA manual. 6th edition is the latest one, so that is a possibility for you. There's also some online resources as well. Owlpurdue.edu is a free website. You just scroll down here to their APA formatting and style guide, and it gives you, you know, some pretty good free information here about general APA references. There's some sample papers here and so on and so forth. So that's available for you. We also have our library at BSC, and so if you go into the library site and you go here to citations, they have what's called EasyBib. It's a free download software that you can use as a student. And I'm personally not familiar with EasyBib, but I'm assuming it's much like the other ones where it cites things for you correctly and helps you with the layout of your paper and things like that. So that would be an option for you. And last but not least, there's what's called Perla. It's just like Perla, like the pupils check, Perla. But Perla is a software that does have like a free version that's limited on its functionality, or you can buy a subscription month to month, or yearly. Perla is, for me, it was an investment because going into this program of mine, everything is APA. And so to me, the money was worth it. So I did get Perla, and it'll pretty much do the whole paper for you. I mean, you just have to plug in all the stuff and it formats it and does everything for you. You don't even have to think about it. And so Perla, you know, is something that is available to check out if you'd like as well. But it, you know, if you want the whole, you know, functionality of it, you're going to have to get a subscription. But just some different options there for you. Okay. Be careful when you're doing your evidence-based practice article searches. A lot of them will have like that little part over somewhere where it says cite or citation recommendations or whatever, and a lot of times they're not correct. So don't just copy and paste what they tell you is APA format and throw it in your paper, because probably 75% of the time it's not really APA. So just be cautious with those auto cite options. All right. All right. Anything about anything moving forward that you guys are wondering about, aside from ATI proctored exam stuff?
We'll still get points off for messing up our APA if we have the 0-2 errors. We're still going to get points taken off.
It's on the rubric. Like the rubric is set up, you know, according to those levels. And so if you don't have any errors, or you only have 1 or 2, then you can, and your content and your grammar and your spelling's all good, then you'll get the full points for that section, and then it'll kind of work its way down. Okay. Monthly advisor meetings are going to continue this year. There is a form in Nursing 227 that will have you guys complete before you come and see us. It's right here under bi-monthly advising. And if you scroll down, it's down here. It's the same form. It's just, you know, detailed out for your AD classes and things like that. So you'll want to fill out your course average and your exam averages before you come to see us. Your ATI scores are here. Some clinical information here. Just general comments that you have about how things are going here. The very last page, we're going to ask that you fill this student success plan out. It's just a basic survey about your experiences, your potential obstacles to success, and things like that. If you're working outside of school, complete this just the first time you come meet with us, and then you'll just have to do these top 2 pages. So what'll happen is you'll want to go in and download this form as a Word document, fill it in, say you're meeting with me on Friday. Do this ahead of time because I'll need to go in and look at it, see how you're doing, write in my comments and thoughts. You'll come and meet with me. I'll pull up the form. We'll talk about some things, hash over some things. I'll put in some more comments, and then I'll actually return it to you through Blackboard. The next month comes up, October comes, you go back into the form that I sent you, update it some more, resave it, resubmit it, and it'll just kind of roll over from month to month that way. We're just trying to create more of a trail from where you began and where you finish with this form. So it should be kind of a rolling document. Any questions about this? If you haven't already, I'll pass around this sheet. This is your advisor that you've been assigned to. If you were with us last year, we kept you with the same faculty member. So take a peek at that so you know who's going to be reaching out to you to get those set up. Probably won't be for probably 2 or 3 weeks because we realize you just don't have any grades yet. So it'll be a little bit before we start scheduling those, but it's meant to help you and keep an eye on you and make sure that you're getting all the things here. Okay. All right, let me just see here. Trying to get rid of some of this stuff. Okay. So on most days, particularly this week and days to come, you're probably going to walk out of this place and feel like your mind's full. Or are you mindful? So you're going to be overwhelmed, but I'm just asking you and suggesting to you that you do still take some time for yourself, take some time with your family members, take some time with your friends, walk away from the books for a while, come back to them after a break. That personal self-care during this year of school is going to be huge. And I don't think a lot of students really believe me when I say that sometimes it does you better to go take a break and do something for an hour and come back to studying than it would to just trudge through and study for 6 straight hours. Okay, so find whatever that is that gives you that peace and that peaceful state of mind, and that'll help you, when you do need to get down to the nitty-gritty and get stuff done. So here's Bart Simpson. He says, can you repeat the part of the stuff where you said all about the things? And so again, there's going to be some lectures, some labs, some simulations clinicals where we're just and you leave and you're like, oh my God, what is she talking about? And so again, don't be afraid to ask questions. No question's a dumb question because I guarantee the question you're going to ask is a question that other students have in their. So just ask. We're not going to judge you. We're not going to make you feel dumb because it's always going to be a good question. Otherwise, you wouldn't be asking it. And so don't be afraid that way. All right. Now, I have a little experiment here called Pull Everywhere. So if you have Pull Everywhere on your phone, good. If you don't, you can text this to this number and join us that way. If you'd rather use your laptop or the internet on your phone, you'll want to go to pollf.com/Melanie SCHOC061, and that'll get you to the poll. So I'll give you guys just a little bit to get there. It's kind of similar to Kahoot, but Poll Everywhere is gives me a little bit more variety in terms of what I can do with it. So I might start using Poll Everywhere in class instead of Kahoot. So to avoid math remediation, what score do you need to achieve on math quizzes? Getting it? Can you see back there, Amber?
Yeah, it's way easier.
Your face is all contorted. Is there anyone that's not all everywhere? You guys are all in? Okay, so on the quizzes, you need to get 100%. Which ones do you need to get 76? The exams. Okay, there's a little bit of a difference there. Okay, how about this one? Which skill will you not be return demonstrating in this class?
I know. Really, we're already able to teach me like math. And this morning it worked, but it's not one of the next questions.
What?
It's just
Stuck?
Yeah, it's just stuck on the first one.
So anyway, chest tubes, you won't be redemoing for us. We'll talk about chest tubes and we'll do a simulation about chest tubes, but you won't have to do a video demonstration of chest tubes. But all the other ones you will. Okay. And I'm just thinking to myself, I think I did not reset this from this morning, but type in a word that describes how you're feeling about going into this year. These are the words from this morning. But are you able to add any? Add? Yeah, there we go. So we have overwhelmed, we have freaked out, chaotic, scared, pumped, anxious, easy, nervous, uncertain. Those are all good words. Ready to be over. That's a good one. Okay, so we get it. We've been students once ourselves, and we feel your pain, but it'll be worth it in the end, and we'll help you through it. Okay, APA format is a big deal in our curriculum. Which of the following is not a reason why? And again, my answer is I didn't reset these. I should have. But following APA format will not ensure you get 100% on your specialty paperwork. It's just a little piece of it. Okay, but all those other reasons certainly are reasons why we use it and why we push it so hard. Okay, and then this one, just type in your advisor for this year, and it's probably just going to recycle those same names, but just make sure you know who your person is. And then lastly, or not next to last, How are you feeling after this lab orientation? Huh? Does it come up on your, are they coming up like one after the other? Oh.
No, I did an angry emoji, but it didn't show up.
Are you on the white?
Don't be angry.
Yeah, that should be me.
Oh, for heaven's sakes. Well, hopefully, I was hoping there'd be more of you over here, but I'll take this one. Okay. Questions for me. These are from this morning, but any questions that you guys are having now about anything? Anything from the week? Anything moving forward?
Certificates, the IDs, so once we're checked off, we're allowed, so say we check off, say we check off Friday, and we pass the check off. That next week, we can actually go and start an ID in lab.
In clinical?
In clinical.
Yes.
That's what I meant. And then what about for work?
Work is separate. Work is separate, and it's not like you're going to pass your skill and we're going to give you a certificate to take to work. Students this morning were saying that you don't really get that kind of clearance until you graduate from the program. So if you're wanting something beforehand, there's like a separate. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of.
We were told that it was
If you go, it's like in November, it says in contact this, like after that week, you email or call or something.
I can't remember where that was, but we gave you like a link for it somewhere.
Yeah, it was through like,
Yeah. Where was that? Hmm. I can't find it now.
Is it under announcements? Nope.
No.
These are on.
It's this one.
so it's after week 14, it says contact Sherry, something interested in becoming ID certified prior to graduation. So
There
it's
you
through
go.
that thing, you know?
There it is. Yes, week 14. So there you go. Week 14 has the information. Any other questions that I can answer for you? We're going to do one more quick thing. Do you guys know where to go in the morning? Not here. Big building that overlooks the river. That's where you'll want to go. At 8. Okay, I have a little activity you guys are going to work on at your table. I myself am not good at brain teasers, but we'll see if you guys are. I work on it as I am. I'm horrible at this stuff. You can do it. It's fun.
Me too.